When you've got
Yeah.
somebody who's got an invisible disability, I think part of the problem that happens within us where we get stuck is we want to try and make them normal, even though they've got this disability,
No.
which means they can't be. I think that's the internal battle that we struggle through.
Yeah.
We do get better, we do get more used to it, but every now and then we'll just find ourselves going up to them and going, oh, guess what, blah, blah, blah. And you get that
Yes.
stone reaction and you're like, oh, why did I do that? So the only way forward, I think, is with radical acceptance. It's just very
Radical.
hard to get there.
Hello, I'm Diana. This is Lonely in Truth, and I'm here with Jody today. I'm really excited. I feel like her and I were just moving mountains to get this awareness out about Cassandra syndrome and just about living with a partner who thinks so differently than we do.
Yeah.
And with full respect to the autistic community, we're just going to dig in. And I'm so
Mm,
glad you're here. I have chills. I've seen your
mm.
videos. I'm so impressed. And what made you start your channel?
My friends had talked to me. We were just generally chatting, and I was saying, nobody's talking about this. Very few people are talking about what it's like to be a partner of somebody on the spectrum. And
Right.
those that do can be a little bit sort of anti autism, and I didn't really want to be that. Anyway, they said, well, you've already got YouTube, and I said, I do. And they said, why don't you start making videos? And I was really nervous about it.
Yes,
And it takes a lot to do it.
it does.
But in the end, I thought, well, they're right. There's not enough people talking about it. And so I just started.
Yeah. I'm so glad. I feel like I have a sister right there with me because YouTube is just
Yeah,
such a, people don't understand YouTube unless you do it.
yeah, yeah,
Unless you're in
exactly.
it, kind of like our
Exactly.
relationships. You don't understand unless you
Yeah.
live it. Did you find out that your partner was autistic later on or from the get-go, that light bulb moment? It's not me.
I kind of known it wasn't me, to be honest, right from the start. I thought it's you. um,
Okay.
so we've been together now 28 years, and we found out about 9 years ago through the diagnosis of our child.
Gotcha.
That was when, the lady who diagnosed our son said it's very likely your husband is on the spectrum. At the time, I remember thinking, no, autism? No, because I was picturing something much different. I wasn't aware
Right.
of high functioning autism.
Right.
I started researching and all these pennies started to fall, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So that's
Oh my
how we found
gosh.
out. Yeah.
Okay. What was the feeling like? Was it a scary feeling, sad feeling, happy feeling, all the feels probably? But
Yeah, all of the above.
and did your husband embrace it? Did he understand it? Did he say no or yes or do you know how he felt? Or is that too
Well,
personal? You don't have to share.
no, no, that's fine. His first response, obviously, because when he pictured somebody with autism, he was picturing like a little child sitting in a corner, maybe banging
Yes.
their head on a wall or something.
Right. Right.
Kind of had
Yeah.
this real kind of negative connotation about what it was to be autistic. So
Yep.
when he first was told that that's what he had, he was like, "Nah, I'm too normal. There's no way." And then
Mm.
over time, I just started researching, and I'd share like a little document or something with him, or he'd do something, and I'd say, "Oh, that's an autistic trait," and he'd go, "Rrr," you
Oh
know.
no.
And after a while, so now it's like 9 years later, he says, "Yeah, I probably have some traits. We've got him there. That's
Kind
good.
of.
Yeah."
So it was how far in your marriage before was there any time before you were trying to figure it out or trying to figure out because you felt right in the beginning something.
Yeah, something
What
was
was that
amiss.
like during the times you didn't know? In a
Um,
nutshell, I'm sure there's a lot to share.
was really depressing actually, and
Yeah.
confusing and lonely because people just
Yes.
didn't get it. I kept talking to people about what it was like to be in a relationship with him, and they kept
Huh?
telling me I was just being really negative because he was this really lovely guy. And so I
Yeah.
felt really isolated. It was a real struggle.
Mhm.
Yeah, empty feeling.
And why do we do that? Why do we go out and talk to people? I did it like crazy from, I don't know, the first date.
Hmm. I think it's because we're trying to understand what's going on. We're confused and we want answers. Because as soon as I knew what he had, I went quiet. I stopped seeking those answers from people. And
Mm,
obviously, I was online then, Googling and researching and looking elsewhere for answers. But once
yeah.
I had those answers, I didn't need to ask my friends, oh, he did this. What does that mean? It's
And
exactly,
diagnoses are important. Now you're going to
exactly.
look towards support of people that understand it, or even
Exactly.
counseling. Because I know with us, we went to counseling 2 or 3 times and it hurt. It didn't help at
Yeah.
all. It made things
Yeah.
worse because they were going on the norm, the normal of, oh, go home each night and tell each other
Mm-hmm.
how much you care about each other and write it down. So I had to write
That's
it
it.
down for him, you know.
Yeah. They're going on the fact that they're going to reciprocate and also
Exactly.
lead, which they don't. So
Did you find support through Facebook groups or?
we've been to several counsellors. Many were terrible because they didn't understand, and one was really good because she specialised with dealing with people who were neurodiverse. So she's been great. But once we had that diagnosis, our son was diagnosed. I then Googled something and something came up called Asperger's back when they called it Asperger's.
Yeah.
And they had a partner support group. And so I signed up and went to some meetings with some people there. And that's when I really started to speak to others who were in the same boat as me. It was
Oh,
so
nice.
light bulb moment, just
Oh, thank goodness.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of wishing that other countries had things like that and even other states.
Okay.
It really helped talking to others who are in the same situation.
I know. We need the same groups as other relational situations with,
Exactly.
I did this whole 5-part series about codependence
Yeah.
and how we have coda groups for that. And we need groups that are specific for us, Cassandra
Yeah.
sisters.
Exactly.
And lonely in truth, and we're trying to tell the truth and nobody gets it, we're not getting the support. We need groups like that. We need to be able to go once a week and
Yeah.
talk, and we just don't
Exactly.
have that yet. It's very slow moving in the US. Other countries a little more. I know with Deborah Lawrence, she has a group in the UK, but
Of
it's
it.
very, very
Yeah.
small. And
Exactly. Because even if you consider there's just you and I making YouTube videos right now,
I
that's only
know,
two people who are really talking about it. Yeah.
really, I
Yeah.
haven't. Have you seen anybody, the heavy hitters that talk about both partners, but there's nobody talking about
Yeah. I've seen a few
specific
couples.
to us.
Yeah. I see a lot of autistic people talking about what it's like to be autistic, which is really good because we can gain a lot from that. And also, other people who
Yeah.
are on the spectrum can hear those conversations and get something from that as well.
Yeah,
However, there's very few people talking about what it's actually like to be in a relationship with somebody on the spectrum.
it really is. And huh? We're starting a
You
movement.
and I, we're starting
It's
a
you and me.
movement.
It takes like hopefully we just got to keep going.
Exactly.
I almost wanted to stop 2 days ago.
Mm. Yeah.
It is hard. It's an uphill battle, changing my name so people could
Mm.
find me with because now it's Lonely in Truth instead of Cassandra's
Yeah.
sister, because we don't know
Yeah.
nobody knows. I talked to my therapist who's been amazing. She definitely knows, she didn't officially, I had my partner officially diagnosed, and I've been to
Yeah.
2 other therapists with just everything I say that she knows, and she just knows autism very well. She had no idea what Cassandra syndrome was, not a clue.
Wow. Yeah.
One of the things that was disheartening, some of the creators have a big following,
Yeah.
there was just one autistic man, he was talking about Cassandra syndrome.
Mm.
And it was the premise of, please, neurotypical partner, don't let Cassandra syndrome ruin your marriage.
Right. Wow.
And it just struck me. You don't get it. And with all due respect, I just, it's put on us like we're overly reacting, or because most of it's women, we go back to that
Mm.
whole thing, it's because we're women or it's because something. And
Mm.
honestly, it's just us trying to get the support that we don't have. Cassandra syndrome starts to get that bad name, and some women just really continue to feel like their person is not good, not a good person. I won't say all the words you
Mm.
might want to say,
Yeah.
But I've definitely experienced women like that. And I remember Amanda in my last interview, she said it can be addicting. It can be
Yeah.
very addicting to get on that route. And a very good friend of mine just can't get out of that. She just still feels he is just the worst person. Terrible, terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. And the thing is, I don't think it's healthy to live in that if you're staying with them. It's okay
Yeah,
to go through
exactly.
those
It's
phases. I talk about this a lot where you kind of need that anger to fuel you to get out if you're going to leave the relationship.
yeah.
But reality is so important that your person is a human being that you fell in love with. I have all reason to be very angry at my partner. Actually, there was an incident today with,
As always.
it's the nature of it and it's something to
Yeah.
be accepting of.
If we go back to what you were just talking about with being stuck in those stages, for some, it's probably their safety. If you
Mhm.
build up that wall of anger as a protection, so that's the thing is that we've all got different things that we're coping with and all different ways to cope with them. So I
Yes.
can't sort of really, I guess, hate on anyone who is stuck in the anger phase.
I'm glad you said
Like
that.
them, I think that overall health wise, and also even accepting of our partners because they have an invisible disability, I think
Yeah.
being angry at them for that, isn't really helpful for
Right.
anybody either.
Right.
Yeah, but it is
I
a
like
very hard stage to move through, definitely, because there's
it
so much
is.
regret and resentment, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love what you said that it's invisible. I've never
Hmm.
thought of that like that before. It is
Yeah.
an invisible disability in our partners.
Yeah.
We don't know for years.
Yeah.
That is just, I
Yeah.
love that.
And so if we were dating somebody who was in a wheelchair, we
It's
wouldn't be
visible.
expecting them to get up and walk, you know?
Right.
We
Right.
understand you're in a wheelchair, you're bound there, you're
Mm,
going to be need to wheeled around and we're going to look after you. When you've
yeah.
got somebody who's got an invisible disability, I think part of the problem that happens within us where we get stuck is we want to try and make them normal, even though they've got this disability,
Yeah.
which means they can't be. And I think that's the internal battle that we struggle through.
Yeah. That's very important to talk about because I still do it. Even though I
Mm,
know, I'll
yeah,
still do it. I'll still come to him and say something that needs reciprocity, that needs,
yeah,
oh, honey, I'm so sorry. And then
hmm,
I'm just ghosted because it's an emotion
yeah,
and I'm hurt more. Like I still to this day thinking, and I've had therapists over and over and over again, Diana, he's not going to do it. You know, he's not going to
yeah,
do it. And it's
yeah,
part of that need in the moment when they're
mm,
your partner, and that's what they're supposed to be there for.
yeah,
I went
mm,
through a long stage of feeling I'm not in a relationship at all. I'm in a caregiver role. I need to depend less on him. I need to treat it like that. But
mm,
it's funny, I still want him to be my partner, no matter
mm,
what. And
exactly,
it's kind of an insidious thing. Like, why do we do that? That's
exactly.
the internal wonder. Like, why do we? And it's
Mm,
this endless hope that they're going to change when you know they're not.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I've gotten better, but I think that is one of our biggest hurdles.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's
And we do get better, we do get more used to it, but every now and then we'll just find ourselves going up to them and going, "Oh, guess what? Blah, blah, blah." And you get that
yes,
stone reaction and you're like, "Oh, why did I do that? Silly
I
me. I know
know.
this already." You
I
know.
know. I
Yeah,
know.
and
Or
I
mine will
don't know,
say
but I do
something.
it less and less.
You do a what? You do it
I
less and
do
less.
it and less because I'm
Yeah.
starting to I'll go to walk towards him, and as I'm walking towards him, I'm remembering there's no point. Don't go
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. What are, because I'm asked this a lot, and I'm sure you are too. What do we do? What steps? When I first started this channel, please, Diana, tell us what we can do to feel better.
Mm.
I have no clue.
The hardest part, I think, is for radical acceptance, where we have to get to a point where we have realized our partner is mentally wheelchair bound. They are not going to get up and run. And the
That's
only thing we can do is look after ourselves.
mhm.
Really sad reality. And I fought that for years. I'm not doing that. No, no. But
Mm.
it's just the only way forward, I think, is with radical acceptance. It's just very
Radical.
hard to get there.
Yeah.
Just very hard to get there.
Well, you're an army of one too, because you
Exactly.
don't, there's nobody there to say, you can do this, you can do
Mm,
this. He's real. I do
yeah,
see it. I do see that he
yeah.
is, what did you call it? Mentally
Wheelchair bound. Yeah.
wheelchair bound. But that helps. He's mentally wheelchair because we just know, and not to even, we're just using wheelchair because it's visible.
Exactly. Yes, I do apologize for those. I'm not trying to be
Of
ableist, but
course.
I am just
Yeah,
using that as an example
exactly.
because it's a
Yeah.
visual
It's
example
a
for
visual
something that can be.
example.
Yeah,
We
I could
need
even
that.
say they're blind, blind,
Hmm.
wheelchair bound. Either way,
Right.
some sort of disability that you can see, but they don't have one
Yeah.
that they can see. Anyone
Yeah.
can see.
No,
Yeah.
you can't. And then that's coupled with many of them are successful. Many of them are great
Yeah.
outside of the home. Many are good. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a relational wheelchair. I want to use a different word than
Yeah.
wheelchair, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a relational. It's they really just struggle with the relationship side of it.
Because mentally, there are many things that they can do, and they do them
Yeah,
really well. There's just
exactly.
certain aspects of human interactions and emotions that make
Yeah,
them get stuck. And,
right.
there's no way around that.
When I see women tell me if I just would have known, that's where I was. Did you ever
Yeah,
feel that way? Where if I just would have known 10 years ago, if I just would have understood this,
absolutely.
all of these,
I would have
everything
been
would have
so
been
different
different.
from the start.
It's,
I don't
it,
necessarily know if I'd have stayed, but I certainly would have acted differently and had less
right.
expectations.
Well, you
Yeah,
both would have suffered less. That's
exactly.
the big
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I think deep in our heart, that's what makes us keep going with this and to talk about
Yeah,
it.
we don't want other people to suffer the way that we've been
No,
suffering. Exactly.
no,
And not suffering because our partner is so terrible and boo his, but suffering
exactly.
because we just didn't have the answers. We didn't know what was going on.
And then that comes back to we do have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. We do have to be the ones that kind of run the show because they just can't, as far as the relationship, as far as the home and the
Yeah,
family. They can do the outside and
exactly.
maybe bring in the bacon and, they can do that part, but we do have to do more of the heavy lifting.
Yeah,
And that's the
exactly.
hard reality. And
Yeah,
because we didn't know that we had to do that is the suffering we go through
exactly.
those years
Exactly.
before.
Because you're
And
thinking that they're going to help pick up some slack and it doesn't
yeah,
quite happen. Yeah,
and it doesn't. So over time, you build this resentment, just naturally because you don't
yeah,
know. And then when
yeah,
you do know, that's when we just kind of blow up
yeah,
and becomes the crazy ladies.
yeah, yeah. Also,
you know?
knowing for me helped me get rid of some of the resentment because then I
Mhm.
realized a lot of it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah.
So that helped to let go of some of the resentment, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've gone through scenarios like CPTSD scenarios because I had a lot of family members pass, and it was even his parents and then my dad, and the reaction because he didn't know how to understand his emotions. He didn't know
Yeah.
how to react
Yeah.
to people leaving this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where I just felt he was so calloused and so bizarre
Mm-hmm.
acting, like it just wasn't appropriate at all.
Yeah.
Where there a lot of that resentment was there. And it does, I've heard about it a lot, where the two major things is understanding end of life
Mm-hmm.
and being able to process that. If you lose a
Yeah.
loved one, like him
Yeah.
losing his parents and me losing my dad. And
Mm.
then there's when we're not well and
Mm.
the lack of
Yeah.
care. Those two
Yeah.
are the biggest things where we feel like if we were in our bed for days, they'd never check
Mm.
on us. I've heard
Yeah.
that where I just feel like, oh, she's fine.
Yeah.
She's not
Yeah.
talking to me. She's fine.
Life suddenly got good.
Right. you know, and that can build up understandably tons of resentment. I went through
Mm.
that period of I've detached completely from him because of the lack of care after surgery I had. I just thought whether he
Yeah.
can mean it or not, I can't. And so you have to take that control and you have to get help.
Yeah.
Some they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
But the dangerous
Mm.
part that we've talked about is holding that resentment and holding that anger. If I would have kept doing that,
Yeah.
I actually did it for a good year. And this was recent.
I did it
Again,
longer.
really? Oh, yeah, I knew and I can't imagine if I'd had that surgery and didn't know that he was autistic, didn't know that
Mm,
he had some of the comorbid and such too, that
mm,
I don't know how I would have handled that. I probably would have took it on myself, like I was being too
yeah.
sensitive, even though I just couldn't get up and I was,
It's hard not to internalize and
yeah,
just sit
it
there
really
and
is.
think, what am I doing wrong? What do I
Right.
need to improve? Did I should have said it that way? Blah, blah, blah.
I know.
Yeah,
I
I've
know.
done a lot of that. Mm.
I'll never
Thinking you
forget
just
when
worded it different.
I understand him. I
Mm.
know he just did not know what to do. I was so sick. I got COVID on top of my
Ooh,
surgery and major surgery and
yeah,
so sick.
damn.
And I remember because I had to go back to the hospital so many times because of my infections. I picked up this darn COVID. And
Mm.
I remember asking him for orange juice. And see, I laughed because bless his heart, he came
Yeah.
down because I texted him, I need you.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
said,
Mm-hmm.
he came in, he opened up the door, he came in, what? And I said, I need some orange. And he was out.
Oh,
I know how horrible it sounds. And it was, he just couldn't handle it. He just couldn't do it. And at
right.
that point,
Yeah.
I knew, and I didn't have anybody to help me because I just knew, I'm going to have to do this myself. And I did,
Yeah.
and it was okay. But
Mm.
I did detach very
Yeah.
much that I'm going to need support. We're getting older. And, you just take in stride. But imagine if I didn't understand him, how
Yeah.
awful that looks.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just how dare he? How this see this is where the anger comes in. If you were to tell
Mm-hmm.
anybody and they don't understand,
Yeah.
oh, what a horrible thing! And honestly, it was. I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have had to go through that. I shouldn't have.
Mm.
I should have
Yeah.
had somebody there. I should have had him hire a nurse. I just didn't know the scope of it, how he couldn't be able to handle
Yeah.
it. And
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
another thing that we need to know for
Mm.
emergency moments like that. Really, who our
Yeah.
partner is. They are all different.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really know that. And I think Deborah Lawrence said this, we're in a window of not
Mm.
understanding, or we're starting to understand more, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
so good that there's so many autistic communities out there that are
Mm.
helping and understanding it and not making it such a horrible thing. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they just don't want to take the diagnosis because they are thinking of it still. We still have it ingrained in
Is that
us.
well, exactly.
It's this somebody who's just not talkative.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
can't embrace it as, okay, I think differently. I have trouble with relationships. Let's work on it. Just do your best. And
Mm.
I have the thing with Cassandra syndrome and ours, I think we're still in the stage where we're forgetting that we're humans too, and we have a life and we have needs, and that
Yeah.
we don't go into these marriages to be caregivers, and we shouldn't have to. So
Yeah.
there is that point in time. Yes, we do more of the heavy lifting, but there needs to be understanding. This
Mm.
needs to be done, that they can't just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's kind
Exactly.
of like, I always think of terrible extreme example, but I thought of Helen Keller in
Yeah.
the movie where the family was just letting her throw her food and everything. And finally, this
Mm.
caregiver came and says, no, you can't do this.
Mm.
And it helped her. And she grew and she became this amazing woman, Helen Keller.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of what, of course, not the extreme,
Mm.
but because it's invisible, like you said,
Yeah.
because it's an invisible thing, very,
Mm.
I don't know what, do you know what they call it now? Because I don't know.
Isn't that what
That's
they're
what I
calling
thought.
it now?
Is it just, you just
Yeah.
say level one, not mild?
I just thought it was level one. And then they also refer to them as high needs and low needs
Oh,
because you could be a level one and have high needs and be a level one
yeah.
and have low needs or anywhere in between. Hence the
There's just so
spectrum.
much. It's such a big spectrum. So yeah, you kind of have to really figure it out. Hopefully, just people are getting diagnosed younger,
Yeah,
understanding
that
it more.
helps.
We'll get past
People get into
this stage.
relationships knowing, and that definitely makes all the
Huge
difference.
difference.
Yeah. Saying before about like the Helen Keller example, they
Yeah,
can't necessarily change. Obviously, there are certain things that they'll never be able to do. But I
right.
think that in some cases, we are able to teach them certain behaviors.
Mhm.
So if I say, let's use grief as an example, both my husband and my son, who's also on the spectrum, if I was sad, they'd probably just stand there looking at me like, what's she
Yeah.
doing? I don't get that. And then I'll say to my son, can I have a hug? And so he'll
Yeah.
give me a hug. And then he learns from that. When people are sad, you hug them. And so there are certain things that they can learn.
Right.
They'll never not necessarily be all of the things that we want, but there
Yeah.
are certain things that they can learn.
When you mentioned hugging, I felt this soft spark. I do love my person, even though sometimes I
Yeah.
say I don't. I know that he is that good person that wants to know what to do. And what's happened throughout his whole life is that he's wanted to know what to do and no one tells him.
Yeah.
And so he's in this constant turmoil. Like I know he
Mm.
cares about me. He knew to hug me when my cat died,
Yeah.
when my cat passed away. He instantly knew that from somewhere, but
Mm.
not when a parent had to
Oh,
go.
interesting.
When he hugged me with the cat, and then
Mm.
he couldn't hug me with the parents or passing away or any of that. I soaked that up when he
Mm.
hugged me from my cat. And it was funny, I
Yeah.
was on the phone with a friend and I was so frustrated that I was on a phone with a friend, so I couldn't fully feel it. And one
Mm.
of the things that is very hard that we go through is those, and they call it with the whole narcissism thing, the breadcrumbs. They give us those
Yeah.
moments where they're
Yeah.
with us, where we
Hmm.
feel connected to them. And we
Yeah.
soak it up so much and feel like it's heaven on earth because we don't get
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of an insidious thing that does hurt us in the long run.
Mm.
So that's where I was getting at with that because,
Yeah.
with this is why it's compared to narcissism so much. But
Mm.
really, honestly, they just don't know when to hug, when to smile, when to laugh, they don't have the cues and it's exhausting.
Mm.
So when we need those moments because we're doing life with them,
Yeah.
when we're hurting, many times they'll get so angry with us, but they're not getting angry with us. They're getting angry that they just don't know what to do.
Exactly.
And so the times when we say, well, I can't ever be upset, he gets mad at me for being upset
Mm.
because so we're upset at him for something he
Yeah.
said, but then he's upset at
Mhm.
us because we're upset at him at something he's,
Exactly. It's that crazy circle, as I call it.
yeah, we're trying to get our point across and then they'll
Mm.
just never get it. And that
No.
part's really hard too.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. But at the same time, those little breadcrumbs, like you're saying, they hurt, they do. But if they weren't there at all, I think that'd be worse. So it's better than nothing.
Yeah, because I think we have to reframe a lot of things. We
Mm.
have to reframe it as okay, in narcissism, he's doing it for a reason to
Mm.
hurt, to
Yeah.
manipulate, to
Mm.
harm. In our
Yeah.
relationships, he's doing it because he's finally knowing what to do at that
Mm.
time. He's
Exactly.
finally in a calm space. He doesn't feel threatened. He doesn't feel angry. He's regulated. He can just say, because he really wants to. And I remember in a therapy session, um, I was crying or something, and the therapist told me, she said, if you could just see his face, he looked horrified that you were so upset. Like he just had no idea. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times in the therapy session, he would put on the mask, and I just felt this
Hmm.
is not working. But she said,
Yeah.
Diana, there was that moment when
Mm.
he was just so clueless. And that's when she absolutely knew because she was still trying to diagnose and really figure, she knew
Yeah.
it was autism.
Hmm.
And those are the soft spots in my heart for
Exactly.
him.
Yep.
So even though, because I live separately together, I always want to live separately together just because it's just impossible to live
Yeah.
a healthy life day in and day out with him under the
Yeah.
same roof. For me,
Yeah.
I had a friend tell me, well, he'll still be right there. He said, no, no, we'll have our own space, but he's around you. You won't feel refreshed and you won't feel, and I agree. There's times where I'll be too loud or I can't talk on the phone or I have to
Yeah.
worry about.
Yeah.
I know his heart. I have learned that radical acceptance. I've learned to not take it personal and
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt
Exactly.
as much.
Exactly.
This is a tough relationship. It's just tough.
Mm.
I'm
It
sure
is
you can say, yeah,
for sure. Exactly.
how long did
Exactly.
you say you've been with him again?
28 years.
28 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
So,
not
yeah.
planning on leaving anytime soon.
Well, no, look, it's interesting. We're talking about breadcrumbs.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily get to know our partners because they don't necessarily open up. But I know my husband better than anybody else. You know, he doesn't
Yeah, me too.
necessarily let me in, but he's let me in more than he's ever let anybody else in. And even though I
Right.
do get those snippets of breadcrumbs and a hug here and a little bit of affection there, or he does lots of acts of service as ways of showing
Yeah.
that he
Yeah.
cares, there are snippets of, um, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel, rainbow moments, you know, that sort of
Yeah.
keep me, I don't know, I guess, endeared to him. You know, I do find him like nice. I think those moments matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if it is breadcrumbs, it's still, I don't know, something. And
Yeah.
I feel bad for him if I left and he's all by himself because I know it's kind of a bit silly, but he can't help that he's got this disability and then I leave him for it. I feel, you know, awful if I did that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's not that you're getting hurt. You
Mm.
know, you know how he is. You know what to expect. You know it's not what you signed up for necessarily, or it's
Yeah,
not what, but
exactly.
you know and you feel for him
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
I was just going to say as well, when you reach
Yeah.
that stage of radical acceptance, I guess you kind of get to take your power back. And you mentioned before the word control. And that's kind of what you have to do is take control of your own life, take control of your needs. But
Yeah.
just taking our power back, you know, and not leaving it all up to them for our own happiness. I'm similar to you in that we live in the same house, but we spend a lot of our time separate. And he does
Yeah.
shift work, he's away a lot. So I
Okay.
think it definitely helps.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are some people that will ask you, how do you know it's not trauma bonding? Oh, well, he does
Ooh,
this.
yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about
See,
that?
I already have, and I've made a video of this. I don't necessarily buy
I gotta
into
watch
the
it.
whole familiar. You know, I don't
You don't
believe
you don't
that.
go
That it
say that
you
again?
pick them because they're familiar. You know that
You don't
saying? You
agree
pick
with that.
not necessarily because
Oh, tell me.
I've seen a lot of situations where people who have had really good upbringings have ended up with somebody awful. And I had a really good relationship with my dad, and I ended up with this really cold, kind of distant guy. Um,
Yes.
and nothing he did was familiar to me. I was not sitting there thinking, oh, look, he's cold and distant. Yeah, I've been there, you know. I was
Yeah.
like, what is that? So I don't necessarily subscribe to, yeah, I guess the things that, you know, the stock standard things that people say.
Right.
I think that there are factors that are true in that, and there are also factors that aren't. So it's not that
Right.
it's totally not existent, but I don't think it's the be all and end all answer of everything.
Yeah.
I also don't sort of like to, I mean, if I focused on the negative, it would do my head in anyway. But I
Right.
like to look at or try to look at some bright sides of things so that
Right.
it's not all. I mean, obviously, I'm in a different stage now. I went through my super angry and I'm really annoyed with
Right.
him. He said, done all these really annoying things, and I'm not going to forgive him. And, you know, but I've
I know.
moved past that. And now I'm happy for a little bit of a snippet of a breadcrumb, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that that's, I don't know, it's nicer to look on the bright side of things now and again, just
It
to
is.
lift our own spirits, you know. Otherwise, you can get caught down dark tunnels and
Right. Right.
you can't sort of keep hating on things you can't change. It's such a wasted energy.
I know. It really
Yeah.
is.
And I did that for so long. I thought, what
I
am I
know.
doing?
I
What am I,
know.
what am I doing? You know,
Yeah.
this is okay, it's not the life that I wanted for myself, but nor is that. I don't
Right.
want to be that angry
Yeah.
person who's bitter and
Exactly.
mean to
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
or getting drunk in front of my children and crying has happened.
Oh
So
gosh.
I didn't want to be that person, you know. So I have to sort of, I guess, take control of my own happiness for sure.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So I'm doing
Because
it.
yeah, the
Yeah.
stage of where you're just so stuck in that anger and you're stuck in that grief and
Yeah.
that's where somebody stuck in that right now is probably not going to want to hear what we're saying. They're
Mm.
probably going to be in that spot where, well, easy for you to say, or he's nicer, or mine's terrible.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something we can say that could ease that by just saying, what do you think? What would you tell somebody that's in that stage that just feels so stuck, so hurt, so
Yeah.
angry. He means to hurt me, all of
Mm.
that. Because obviously you've been through it. I know I've been through it too. I still struggle with it. But you've
Yeah.
really gotten on the other side. Do you feel like there's something you could say that could ease the tension
Mm. I
for
think the
someone
first
going
thing
through
that
that?
I would say is don't beat yourself up about where
Mm,
you are right now, because it is so different for all of us. And look, I feel an emotional as I say this. We all are in those stages, like the stages of grief and crying all the time and wishing that I had better. And, I wish I'd never been that negative Nelly person. I wish I hadn't dumped all that stuff on everybody. I mean, so many wishes. But at the end of the day, it happened. And where a person is right now is just where they are right now. They may be able
yeah,
to work through it, but don't beat yourself up about whatever stage you're in right now. You may always be resentful, each to their own. But yeah,
right,
I just said don't beat yourself up. We're
right.
already going through so much. We
I
should not
know.
pile on top of ourselves. Again, easier for me to
Exactly.
say, I've done
I
that to
know.
myself.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
And that we're here and we understand it too.
yeah. And that there are people out there who get it. So that's a
Yeah,
bonus.
yeah,
And look, you might be in the angry stage for, I don't know, 10, 25, 3, whatever many years for you.
yeah.
It is what it is. And for those who never get out of the angry stage, probably easier if you weren't in the relationship anymore, if you were going to stay
Right,
angry. But,
right.
there are people who will stay angry and stay in the relationship. And again, everybody's coping however they're coping. They've got their reasons for staying, their reasons
Exactly.
for leaving. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you. That's
Mm.
really great to just don't beat yourself up.
Mm.
It's so important.
Yeah, because you
We've
don't want
already
these
got.
people to feel bad about being caught in that stage, you know, um,
Mhm.
because I think we've all been there. Well, then
Yeah.
again, there are probably some who've never been in that stage. I've spoken to some people who are really very loving and caring towards their autistic partners, mainly because they
Yeah.
got into the relationship knowing. And they don't seem to be going through
Yes.
any kind of dark phase. And I'm kind of thinking, oh my
Yeah.
God, how did they manage that?
I know.
But
I
yeah,
know.
I just think we've got enough on our plates. We don't need to beat ourselves up for whatever
No.
stage we're
Or try to be somebody else too, because it is so
exactly.
different. And we
Yeah.
really are, even though, like we were talking about right in the beginning, that there's just not a lot out there. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us women out there. And we
Exactly.
are starting to speak up, and there
Yeah.
are groups, and you're going to find some groups don't work for you, some do,
Yeah.
some are negative, some,
Yeah.
I think you and I have a lot to offer, and to just
Mm.
be there and be that listening ear and be someone that understands, that gets it. They don't have to keep, telling us, well, because we'll
Yeah.
just nod. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
completely understand what they're going
Exactly.
through. And that's really
And
the
there's
most important part.
exactly. And there's a lot of, you mentioned this right at the start as well. There's a lot of situations where people can sort of hate on what you're putting out there, the content that you're putting out there. They might see
Yeah,
it as anti-autistic, or you're
I
just so
know.
full of or hate, or not. When I say you, I don't necessarily mean you. So
Right.
as a collective,
Yeah,
I hope that it encourages more people to come forth, speak out, speak their truth,
me too.
and not be afraid to talk about the
Yeah,
realities.
yeah,
Because at the moment, there might be people out there who are afraid of any kind of fallout if they make a comment or anything.
yeah,
So hopefully we pave the way for people to feel
mm,
more accepted.
yeah. And to leave a comment, knowing that, a lot of us may hide from our partners. A lot of us will hide and talk about how he did this, he did that, and he did, because just to this, but it's the fallout. You don't want to
Mm,
talk bad about your partner. It looks
yeah,
bad. It
yeah,
doesn't look good. Well, why are you with them or your husband? Why are you,
yeah,
you shouldn't talk bad about your husband. Don't air your dirty laundry. That's a big one.
yeah, exactly.
And the challenge, another challenge we have is the way that I believe, and Deborah Lawrence said this too, that the way we heal is talking about it,
Yes,
being able to comment, is
yeah,
being free to say, hey, I feel this negativity towards my partner that I don't understand his language and how he is. Please help
yeah,
me. that shouldn't be a bad thing anymore. That shouldn't
Exactly.
be, and we have come way too far just as women in relationships to
Yeah.
not just, oh, everything's okay. We don't need to do that anymore.
Exactly. Yeah,
We
exactly.
don't. We
Yeah.
really don't. We are strong. And what you said about not every woman, the trauma bonding, you don't agree with that. I am completely on board with you because I have
Mm,
talked to women from all different walks of life.
yeah.
Now, maybe for me, I was in a difficult situation when I met him.
Yeah.
And did he look familiar kind of from some? Maybe. That's not for everybody. You came in just wasn't a familiar, it wasn't a thing. I mean, we marry our fathers or we marry and there's this certain dynamic we're used to, and all of that has merit,
Mm,
but not all of us. I've heard blanket statements. All of us are
yeah.
codependent. All of
Yeah.
us are
Yeah.
all the negative
Hmm.
Pandora box. I don't know, of just we are the bad guys.
Yeah.
Honestly, no. And you're there to prove it. You just said it. No, you
Mm,
don't agree with that. You
yeah.
are husbands, partners they have an invisible, it's
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah. I don't want to be
And
made to feel bad for staying either. And that's, as you say, a lot of blanket statements
exactly.
out there. You don't want to be making anybody feel bad about the choices that they've made, and blanket
No.
statements can do that. Are you staying because you're
Yeah.
trauma bonded? I'm not saying some people aren't trauma bonded, but not
Right.
everybody would be in that category.
Exactly.
I stay because I like the guy. He
Uh,
doesn't necessarily meet all my needs, but he's got some good qualities.
yeah.
Yeah.
I used to joke. I think I even have a video. I'm with him for the money. It's my anger
I've
stage.
I've I've said
What?
that too because he used to say to me, "Are you just with me for my money?" And I used to think, "No, that's ridiculous." Anyway, he said it recently, and I said, "Well, what else you bring to the table?" And he goes, "We have a jokey
Yeah.
banter relationship."
But there's not, and nowadays, I mean, the whole world's struggling. It's
Mm,
crazy where I remember saying it to somebody just kind of like funny like that, kind of in a way.
mm,
And um, but back then especially too, it was more just I'd gone through that stage where he didn't help me with my surgery and everything. I just wanted to leave him,
yeah,
but I couldn't financially. And so I was just in
yeah,
that space. And
mm,
I remember, and it would be somebody, the person I was talking to, I wouldn't think he would say this. It's more just you
yeah,
got to keep the marriage solid, or you
mm,
have to, if you're not happy, you should leave. And I thought I was going to get that. And I
mm,
just said, right now, it's just financial. He said, that makes sense. That's
mm,
okay. You have to
yeah,
you don't want to put yourself out there with nothing and to be
yeah,
smart about it. And that is very important if we want to leave. And it's also very important, again, not to shame ourselves, not to
yeah,
gaslight ourselves,
yeah,
not to beat up on ourselves, because
exactly.
there's all different types of reasons.
Yeah,
And I do care for the person. Honestly, if I really didn't, I would find a way. The
you'd always
financial
find it.
helps. He
Mm,
is always, and what's so wrong with that, really, too?
mm,
He's
yeah,
right there.
exactly.
If I need something for the dogs, if I need
Yeah,
something, we're doing this living separately together. So I'm kind of struggling
mm,
financially, and he's always there for any
yeah.
emergency. That says something to his character.
Mm, exactly. It's like what we said about the breadcrumbs. You kind of look at it
Yeah.
in a different way as a positive. If we're only
Yes.
there for the financial side of things, well, that's a positive because it means that our partners are good at
I
providing
get
for us.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mm. And
You
also
said,
that saying about staying for the children. Some people will see that as a bad thing, but there was
yeah.
some sort of therapist out there, I can't think of any names or anything, and
Um,
he was saying that sometimes staying for the children isn't a bad thing
yeah, of
because there are some people who are in really volatile relationships, and the best way to protect your children is to be the
course.
mediator.
Right.
There are certain good things about some of the negatives that are
Hmm.
happening. The only
Yeah.
people that we can control are ourselves, the only lives that we can
Yeah.
work on our own. We can kind of
Right.
teach them bits, give them a little bit of a hint, some breadcrumbs, whatever, plant the
Yeah.
seed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately, we have to find a way to make ourselves happy.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with that, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
happy necessarily, but
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
Yeah. Jody, I'm just so happy you're here. And I feel really good right now talking to you.
Oh,
You
good.
just warm my heart. This has been really great.
And I love your smile, so it's really
Oh,
cheered
thank you.
me up.
I have two questions. One is, how do we reach you? You have a channel, amazing name. It is Married to Autism. And you also have a Facebook group. How do people find you on
So if
that?
you go to my YouTube channel and it's got that click more links, and then
Mhm.
down under there is the Facebook group that people can join.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful.
I wanted that specifically so that people had a place where they could talk about their relationships, more sort of from a positive aspect of kind of good points we can take away. So, more support for moving forward in a more positive way. That's more what the Facebook account is
Okay.
about. Yeah, the
Okay.
support group.
So my second question is final thoughts before we
Final
let you
thoughts.
go.
Well, my final thoughts are I'm really hoping that we get more awareness around this particular subject of what it's like to be in a relationship with them, and not in the negative, they're bad people kind of way, but just moving towards positive support, that kind of thing. I really hope that we open that up for people, not just you and I, but just in general in society.
Yeah,
I think we need more of that. We really
we
do.
do. We
Yeah.
do. Okay. Perfect
Aside from
final
that,
thought.
it's lovely to talk to you.
That's been great. It's
Yeah,
comforting to talk to a Cassandra sister.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gosh,
Thank you for
I
having me here. I appreciate it.